Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
We have an awesome new episode of VO Buzz Weekly, so welcome.
Our show is always awesome. I love that. Yes, we do. And on the show today, we have Harry Dunn. If you guys don't know who he is, we're talking TV promos, baby.
Yeah.
Right? And
Writer,
he's got some
producer, director.
Oh,
He's
gosh.
amazing.
Unbelievable information for you guys. You're going to freaking love it. And why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Oh, yes. Well, Rodney Salisbury, awesome VO talent coach. He's been on our show, so look back in the archives.
Absolutely.
Rodney has written yet another book, Tongue Twisters and Vocal Warm-Ups, with other vocal care tips.
Ah.
He is always wanting to give back and help, and it's a great read. It's got some fun stuff and obviously some very, very
and the
good
cool
tips in here. So.
Exactly, and the cool thing is that we've actually heard from a few people who have incorporated some of these tongue twisters and techniques, and they said it was awesome. They like wake up in the morning now, they have their coffee, and they practice on tongue twisters before they warm up for their auditions and stuff. So if you want to pick one of these up,
you can get it at Amazon. And if you want an autograph copy, then you can go to rodneysalisbury.com and he will send that to you with a little shipping and handling, not too much.
Absolutely.
And also there is a Kindle version.
Yes.
So check it out.
So check it out. Rodney Salisbury's new book. It's awesome.
Okay, now we're going to talk to Harry Dunn. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Guys, our guest is a promo writer, director, producer at the CW Network. He is also a sought-after private coach and respected workshop presenter. Are you ready to get buzzed, take some notes, have some fun, and just have your world rocked by the best of the best? Mr. Harry Dunn.
Harry Dunn.
What's up?
I love that.
How are
you? Is that your...
No,
your
that
thing?
was just improvised.
Are you in a gang?
He's an ad-libber.
Are you in a gang or?
Yes, I'm in a gang. I'm the bald white people's gang.
The promo gang.
We are fierce, but we are proud.
We are fierce, but we are proud. Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm going to start off by saying that we know that you're a busy guy, man.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff going on, and so thank you for taking your time coming out and sharing with all of us. We appreciate that.
We're going to talk fast. He has to go back to the network.
He has to go.
So we had to get him
on call tonight.
He's on a
I
call.
am not on call tonight. You have me at your beck and call.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Harry Dunn. I'm going to get right into it, man. You started as a trailer writer editor for Canon Films, directing some of the giants like Don LaFontaine, Pardo, Mark Elliot, among probably others. How did that, tell us a little bit about that, because it's really, really cool. And then how did you go from there to the CW?
Okay, well, the great thing about Canon Films was that it was like grad school, because the films were low budget pieces of crap. And our job as trailer editors was to put lipstick on those pigs.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, how many times can you refresh American Ninja 30 or Missing in Action 27? Okay,
Yeah.
So I went in there, and a very good friend of mine named Mark Pritchard gave me my first job, and all I was doing was rewinding film, and that it goes back to that era. And then one day he needed a cut on something, and I was back on the Steenbeck era of editing, and so I did this thing for this movie for Canon Films, and it worked out okay. And then Mark said, "Okay, you're a full-time editor." So
Wow.
I have
just
done
like that.
Just like
You
that.
did that good of a job.
He was gifted.
Instantly.
You know what? It was a job of 25-year-old guys, 23-year-old guys, and we were the bomb. It was so fun. We'd meet, we'd hang out with, talk to Menahem Golan and Yoram Globus, who were the owners of the company, and how do you put lipstick on this pig? So, and I just remember one of the things we would do is we'd get this high-end talent. And there I was 23, 24 years old, and here's the story, I had Mark Elliot and Don LaFontaine back-to-back.
Wow.
Now, back in that day, LaFontaine went around in his limousine from job to job, okay? And Mark Elliot was up first. And back in that day, everybody got scale plus 10 with the exception of LaFontaine, who got triple scale, okay? So LaFontaine walks into the session. I'm sitting with Elliot, and Elliot's contract, his SAG contract, is out on the table. And Don LaFontaine looks at it and goes, "They're only paying you that much?"
Whoops.
Now, Mark Elliott, to his credit, and he's a wonderful man, burst out laughing because he knew who LaFontaine was.
Yeah.
But
they're only paying you that much.
we're only paying you that. But he was the only guy in town that got triple scale, and he gave you 2 takes.
Yeah.
He gave you 2 takes, and look at me, I'm 23 years old.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Mr. LaFontaine, and I actually heard the words come out of my mouth. Could I get another one for insurance?
Oh!
But you know, you're 23, and I don't know. And then so I got my insurance takes, but I directed him probably 10 times.
Wow.
I mean, but it took all of 8 minutes.
Did he say anything about the insurance take?
No, because he kind of felt sorry for me. You go, okay, and then he'd do the second read, and it was pretty much the same as the first.
The Don LaFontaine eyebrow?
No, because he was in a booth and I couldn't really see in, and I was at this
Okay.
thing, and I was trying to be like a big macher, you know, like a 23-year-old guy breaking down LaFontaine, and that was just an
I can just
epic
imagine
fail.
what
He was like, I have 30 more seconds. I could give you
I
one
can
more."
just imagine what Don was doodling while he was asking him that.
doing his crossword.
Yeah.
and it wasn't like the copy was any great shakes, you know. It's
Yeah.
Chuck Norris is missing in action. You know?
Part 49.
I
That's
literally think
fantastic.
there was, in honor of the great Lake Bell movie, there was a time where I actually wrote the words "In a World" to start a trailer.
Really?
Wow.
What else do you do in your 20s, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You write "In a World" because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
And he'd be "In a World," you know, so. So it was fun. You know, a lot of great people went through there. And I tell you, there was one voiceover, and I will not say his name because of this story, and you'll understand why. You had to get him exactly at 11 o'clock in the morning because by noon, he was whiskey drunk.
Oh.
So,
What does his first name start with?
you know what? I don't want to get sued here. If you got him at 10, he was way too hungover to do the spot, okay? And if you got him at noon, he was drunk. So if you didn't get him exactly at 11 o'clock,
No way.
and he had this, he was an older man with this warm, avuncular voice, and he would do like children's, you know, fairy tales. He would do that kind of voice, that warm read. He was hammered, like every time. So, and one time, years later, I was working for this wonderful woman named Barbara Glazer, super talented, super smart woman, before she went to Ant Farm. And we got this gentleman, but we couldn't get him till 3.
Uh-oh.
And he went into the booth, and then when he came out, Barbara was standing by the thing, and she just went, whoo! And it was just like the whole booth reeked of whiskey. And like, not whiskey like you poured the bottle out, whiskey like coming through your pores.
Yeah.
Been around
Sweat
for a
whiskey.
while.
And so, I mean, this dude was hammered.
Wow.
But we got the read out of him.
He could perform like that? I mean, was it...
He had been doing it for decades.
Holy Toledo.
Makes you wonder if he wasn't. What
Well,
would
he
have
was
happened?
Irish, so God bless my
Yeah,
people.
well, if you're Irish,
so-
you're okay, then you have to drink like that. You can't do
Exactly
anything
right.
else.
Oh,
Drink.
Boy.
But
I
here's
did-
what they say.
And I did get the chance to direct Don Pardo. Now, obviously, he was living in New York. He was doing Saturday Night Live, as you know. But the cool thing about Don Pardo is he volunteered to do a voice message for me. Now, you remember back in the olden days, you would hit record on your cassette, and you'd say, Chuck Duran is not in at the moment, but if you please leave a message, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So he goes, Harry Dunn is not in at the moment, but if you'd like to leave a message, leave it at the tone. Thank you. And then, so I had that for years, and of course, that technology went obsolete, and thus the Don Pardo
You're
voice
like, I
went
can't use my cassette anymore?
No. But how nice of him. Just he didn't have to do that.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
That's really,
So-
really cool.
Yeah.
Well, he must have liked you. Did you ask him to do that, or did you pay him to do that?
I did not pay him to
Oh,
do
he
that.
volunteered,
He
yes.
volunteered to do that.
Very
he was just a
nice.
nice guy. So
Yeah. Well, all the stories you hear was that he was very gracious.
Yeah.
he was very
Gracious
gracious,
guy.
and he did. I don't think he did a lot of LA promo work. You know, I mean, he was mainly Saturday Night Live and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. So flying high on your directing the greats, then what happened? Where did you go from there?
Well, I did Canon films for a number of years, and then I got into TV writing, and I wrote for a number of shows. In fact, I am technically an Emmy-nominated writer for my time on In Living Color.
Technically.
Well,
Is that what?
How does that
Can you
work?
qualify?
technically, it's every writer of the staff gets nominated for an Emmy. In that particular episode, I don't think I had a sketch in the show, so I say that. But anyways, and then the problem with writing for TV is this: the shows get canceled, and then you're out of work until next May.
Yeah.
And I had a family, and I remember I was on a show over at the Disney Studios that was canceled 3 days before Halloween.
Oh no, no candy for you, kids.
So from Halloween all the way to May,
Wow.
I didn't have any work, and so it was a feast or famine business. So I had a friend of mine whose son played on a hockey team with my son, and he was a guy at the CW, then the WB.
Right.
Okay, and he had torn his ACL. His name is Steve Block. He's a great friend of mine, great guy. he had torn his ACL, and his leg was up like this, and he could not slide into an Avid because he had to keep his leg. So he was just going to write, and he asked me to come in and just edit. And then from there, I was able to start my career at the WB.
Yeah, and you've been there since what, 2002?
I have been there since 2002,
Yeah.
living the dream.
Wow, living the dream. Are you being sarcastic or for real?
I am being for real.
You made
Okay,
the call.
good. I love that. I love that.
Look at the halo around him.
There is a halo.
Oh, the dream halo. All right, Harry Dunn, dream maker. So there are different schools of thought, and we would like to get your opinion
Yes.
about.
Oh, okay.
About, guess what I'm thinking? No, about the concept of should you just sort of stay in one lane, do one thing well, or do you really need to be a jack of all trades when it comes to promo voicing?
Okay, so when it comes to promo voicing, I think it is a mistake to only do one thing because you are pigeonholing yourself. Now, example, obviously if you're Don Pardo, you don't want to cast him to do a horror read.
Right.
But at the same time, and because you would cast Don LaFontaine to do a horror read, right?
Right.
But I could totally hear Don LaFontaine opening Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Okay? Don Pardo had a very specific sound, a very specific thing he did. But I just think it's really important that you be able to use, and I teach this a lot in my classes, is how to use your timbre to your advantage. Your timbre being your vocal range, because you can do a read that's just like this, or you can cut your volume in half and do a read just like this, and you get the same effect.
Right.
So one read is up like, so if you're doing a demo, and you're doing a Disney Channel read like this, well, why can't you do an FX read like this with this? Oh, but just by dropping your timbre, dropping your volume, and doing it in this voice.
Right.
So that's a lot of what I like to teach. So the answer to your question is yes, you can be a jack of all trades if you know how to use your timbre, if you know how to use your volume, and if you know how to act. The one mistake I think a lot of promo VOs make is they don't understand the acting aspect of what they do. I think it's a mistake to think you just walk into a studio and say a bunch of words.
Right.
You would be shocked at how many people just say a bunch of words. I teach this one thing in my class, and that I have this one proverb, I should say, and that is, and we're going to talk about voice bank right now, if that's okay.
Sure.
Which is something I just flat out refuse to use. It's just anathema to me, and that is, when you go on VoiceBank, you will hear 5 voices that you like, and you will call their 5 respective agents and say, hey, I want this guy, this is great. And the agent will not only give you that voice, but piggyback 10 other people on the read. So all of a sudden, instead of having 5 reads to listen to, you now have 55 reads to listen to. And I tell this to every student of mine, and 50 of them make the exact same mistake. Make the exact same mistakes in their reads, and 5 of them get it. And then it's just down to what the good Lord gave you. Is your voice right for the spot once you've narrowed down that 5? Okay.
Yeah. And what are some of the mistakes that people do?
Reading words.
Reading words.
Yeah.
Reading words just without any inflection. I go through in my lessons a very serious work on each word. Adjectives. As a writer, as a guy who writes these promos, who directs these VO people, I know what I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
And all my lessons are from the point of view of me, the promo producer. How do I make you deliver what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
The story.
Adjectives. Okay. Is it a like we were doing a spot for a show called Supernatural, and I work with my students on this, and it's like, and a very big bad wolf. What kind of a wolf is it? A bad wolf. What kind of a bad wolf is it? A big bad wolf. What kind of a big bad wolf is it? A very big bad wolf.
Right.
If you sit there and go, and a very big bad wolf, you're not taking advantage of your adjectives. And a very big bad wolf.
Right.
But you'd be surprised how people blow over that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Retail. Retail is a big part of what's important in a script. And by retail, I'm talking about the name of the show, if the lead actor's name comes up, or the lead character's name, excuse me, is it a season premiere? Is it a season finale? Day, date, time, and most importantly, on the CW.
Network.
That's our retail. You'd be surprised how many times, like, Top Model is back. But no. What's the name of the show? Top Model, and then is back. What does is back mean? It means it's a season premiere.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
back.
Big.
It's back.
It's big.
So I say that's retail. Top Model is back. So
Right.
I've hit my retail on both occasions there. All right? So I talk a lot about hitting retail, hitting adjectives, and then I do a little thing called the dismount. And
This is a good one.
Stick the landing.
that's right. I say, do you watch the Olympics? And everybody says yes. We watch the Olympics. Do you watch female gymnastics? And they all say,
Of
most
course.
people say yes. I said,
Yeah.
are you familiar with the balance beam? And they go, of course. And I go, what is the one and only thing people remember about the balance beam? And the answer is the dismount, whether or not she sticks the landing. Every sentence ends with a dismount, okay? And if you don't hit the dismount, if you don't have some sort of inflection, some sort of punctuation in that dismount, then you're throwing away words.
Right.
You know, I wish I had a script in front of me. I'm just trying to think of one off the top of my head.
Well, because a lot of promos are not, some are very wordy and some aren't. So you have just sometimes minimal real estate to really tell that story.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's very, even especially in those crucial, maybe there's 3 lines with 3 words each line. I mean, there's not a lot that you have to work with.
And also, see, another thing I do is I do it from the point of view of that blind audition script that your agent sends you, okay? You've got 2 hours to read this and get it back to me. And I am a big believer that all the answers lie on the page, okay? Whether or not there's dialogue there, whether it's not, you just got to learn how to interpret the script and adjust your read accordingly, okay?
Right.
They're not, like when I do a CW audition, I have my dialogue written in there, and so it helps them a lot.
Oh, that's nice, because usually you don't have it. Yeah.
But I've had clients email me a script that's just like, make it warm and make it conversational, which is something we'll get into later, the conversational thing. And it's just like, so what do you do? Well, you go through the rules. You know, what's it about? You know, what do you think the dialogue would be at this moment? It's like, it's a show. I think there was a spot for Suits, and it was like, and plenty of bars, and you automatically think that that these guys are going to get drunk. But I said, well, maybe the plenty of bars is a jail cell
Prison
bar,
bars,
and read it like that.
Right.
You know, that's just the answer lies on the page. You know,
Yeah.
so I try to teach them how to interpret a page.
Yeah.
And because that's, again, when you don't take the time to interpret the page, when you don't figure out your adjectives, when you don't figure out your retail, when you don't figure out your dismounts, you are reading words.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that a big problem with that is that a lot of, especially guys, they think it's about the voice. You know, they think that they're going to get that job because they have this big sounding promo voice, which is never the deal, not anymore, right?
Right.
You're looking for the read, you're looking for the story, you're looking for, you want to tease the audience to hear this thing and go like, I got to see that.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Now, I'm going to circle back to your jack of all trades thing, because I did a session with Reno Romano, who is one of our stalwarts, and he is just a fantastic VO, and he's a truly wonderful guy. He wrote a beautiful, beautiful blurb for my website. Thank you, Reno. That was very kind words you said about me. And I was directing him in a comedy read. And I wanted him to do what I call a contrapuntal read to that. And I didn't want him to be funny because the dialogue was funny.
Right.
And so, but his initial instincts were to read it a little funny. And and this is perfect about the jack of all trades. I said, hey, here's my note. I said, hey, Reno, remember the Mazda ad you did? Do it like that. Now, for those who don't know the Mazda ad, if you hear, what do you drive? That's Reno, okay? Danny Thomas, St. Jude's, here at Mazda, what do you drive? That's his campaign,
right?
Okay? So he goes, oh, next take, exactly what I wanted. He just did it like that. You know, he did the comedy read like that.
Yeah.
Because the jokes were coming from the dialogue. I don't need anything. Now, so that's why you can be a jack of all trades. How can you tell a guy who does a Mazda commercial in a very serious voice to do a comedy read? Because Reno is a jack of all trades. He can do it all.
Exactly.
So that's a great example of being a jack of all trades. Now, another thing I talk about in the lessons, since we brought this thing up about this read, is I bring up Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And most of the people know who they are, but the young people look at me with that vacuum stare like,
Huh? How many Twitter followers do they have?
exactly.
A lot.
But for those who don't know, Dean Martin was the straight man and Jerry Lewis was the wild one. Okay.
Right.
So so you look at every script, whether it's a horror script, whether it's a drama script, whether it's a comedy script, you got to figure out who is Dean Martin and who is Jerry Lewis. Because if it's a comedy script and you're trying to be as funny as the jokes, it's chaos. It's like Dean Martin trying to be funny when Jerry Lewis is funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to, that's another thing that people don't do is who is Dean Martin and who is Jerry Lewis in every script. Now, most every kind of promo has a Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis with the exception of a quote spot. Because the quote spot, they're going off in 2 parallel directions. The VO is talking and telling you how great the show is by the attributes, the quotes and the attributes.
Right.
While the dialogue is telling you like what's going on in the episode. So they're running in 2 parallel directions. Aside from that, somebody's always Dean Martin and somebody's always Jerry Lewis in these spots.
Let's keep going on the audition realm. You listen to a lot of auditions. So let's talk about what stands out to you. What do you feel is lacking? What is happening that shouldn't be happening? Can you just kind of give us an idea of what gets you down to those top 5 guys or gals?
All right, so now we're getting into the wonderful world of demos, I guess. Are you talking about once they've read from me, or listening to the demos that precede it?
No, just listening to the auditions that they're sending in.
Listen to the auditions they're sending in.
What is it that's going to get you to go like, okay, that's really good, that really stands out?
It's the same old thing. Can they act? Are they hitting their retail? Are they hitting their adjectives? Do they have a point of view in the read?
Right.
Are they trying to be as funny as the comedy, or are they setting up the comedy? Are they doing a contrapuntal read, meaning the opposite of what the dialogue is?
Exactly.
That kind of stuff. It's just, and I talked to a lot of really high-end VO guys. One of my clients goes by his name of Dustin James. I call him Dustin Layton because that's his real last name. Just an absolutely terrific guy. He was my first client. And he was so good, he got the Heart at Dixie campaign, and like it is so hard to break into the CW, and this guy was so good, he got it in 1. All right, so,
Sweet. But
Dustin and I have talked about this stuff, and he's just really surprised at how people just gloss over words, and it just, he gets it. He works so hard. I will go do lessons at his house, and he's got this beautiful setup, and he works so hard, and he's so smart, and he's just the people that pay attention to detail are the ones that are going to succeed. The ones who just think they got a good voice and are just going to wing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about demos, because I know that you wanted to kind of dive in there and really, and this is really important. This is like a tool. A lot. First of all, sometimes I'm surprised that a lot of people don't even pay attention to what they put on a demo.
Right.
Sometimes there's so little thought that goes into the most important tool that you could possibly have as a voice actor. So give us your views on the whole demo.
Okay. I think there are some myths to the demo, and that the first myth is that people like me, the promo producers, are only going to listen to 5 or 10 seconds of a demo.
Right.
No, we are only going to listen to 5 or 10 seconds of a demo that sucks.
Right.
5 or 10 seconds of a demo where the voice is wrong.
Exactly.
If I'm intrigued, listen, what's the longest a demo runs? A minute and a half? Like, I don't have ADD that badly that I can't go,
this is really good.
90
maybe
seconds.
I do have ADD that badly. No, I don't have ADD that badly. I can listen to 90 seconds of a demo. It doesn't have to be. And but if you're like Reno or my friend Dustin, Reno does 1,200 spots a year. So his thing is going to be 5 seconds of this, 5 seconds of this, 5 seconds of this. Okay, but if you're just starting out, okay, and you're trying to get Heather over at Atlas to sign you, or one of those big agents like her, you've got to have spots that play out. Okay, I've done exactly 3 demos in my life for my customers, which, as you all know, is what Chuck gets done by lunch. Okay. But in the 3 demos, I just was very specific about what I wanted to do. I wanted them to always have a prestige read.
Yeah.
First guy I did was a guy named Dave Crevassier, who you know.
Yeah.
He's a man in his late 40s, early 50s. Right off the bat, I had him do Men of a Certain Age.
Right.
Very prestigious TNT show back in the day.
Right.
Then another client of mine, Chris Turbeville, I had him do Togetherness, which is the HBO show. And that spot went over so well with Atlas, he called me and said that he went from 2 auditions a week to 6 auditions a week and offered to take me to dinner. And nobody offers to take me to dinner. So
what you're saying is that you want people to take you to dinner.
that's okay.
Harry's
Just
hungry.
offer it. Just offer
Very
it.
hungry.
And then I just did one for a guy in Asheville, North Carolina named Dan Friedman. And I started him off with Orange is the New Black and Justified. And Heather heard it, and she has been on the fence about this guy, and she loved it. And she wrote me this email saying, I loved it, and then in all caps with exclamation points, a lot.
Yeah.
So it's just, you just can't just throw in a bunch of reality shows, and you don't want it to be noise.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just really think, and let it be 90 seconds. Let it be 90 seconds if you got really cool stuff on it. If you got Orange, and you got Justified, and you got some cool reality show, LA Inc. or something, Yeah. And you throw in a Disney Channel thing so you can get your high timber read in there, you know, and but let's 6 spots, minute and a half, let some of the dialogue play,
Yeah.
So it's just, it doesn't have to be this, if it's not done in a minute, no one's going to listen to it. Wrong.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's exactly it. And I tell people this, because people ask me all the time, well, how does somebody know in 10 seconds whether the rest of the demo is going to be good or not.
Right.
And my answer to that is always this. Okay, you're not a professional. When you go to a karaoke bar and somebody starts singing, do you know right away whether they're great or not?
Yeah.
Right.
First note, you know, oh, this person can sing.
Right.
I'm like, well, what do you think an agent or a professional, somebody like yourself, listens to a demo for 10 seconds? You know if this guy's got chops or not.
Right.
And if he doesn't, you're not going to waste the rest of your 90 seconds. You're going to move on to something that's good.
Then you're going to keep going.
Exactly.
That's the thing, though. That's the myth I want to destroy, is that we only listen to 5 or 10 seconds if it's wrong.
Yeah.
If it's right, I keep going.
Thank you for
Right
clarifying.
on. I love that.
Love it. So who should people go to get a great demo done?
You.
Besides you.
Oh, no. Well, this...
Chuck Duran does lovely demos. I've heard a lot of them. He is the man. Just be patient, because he has 50,000 people on deck to get his thing. I only do 3.
Yeah.
He's done 3 by lunch.
Yeah, so as long as you take Harry out to dinner, okay, he's going to work with you.
We're swerving. You're both pretty. Don't
I'm
fight.
kidding,
okay. No, speaking of... for someone who wants to buy you dinner, how can someone become a private client of yours? Do you work by Skype? Because we have people all over the world
I work almost exclusively by Skype.
Beautiful.
Except for Dustin, who lives in Burbank. But otherwise, I work on Skype, and you can go to my website, which is dunnpromo.com. That is DUNN promo.com.
There it is on the screen. Good.
All right. If there's a graphic coming up, Dunn Promo, put it right here in my hands, dunnpromo.com. Okay?
What made you want to? I mean, obviously, you're not sitting home in your pajamas. What made you want to start coaching?
I had no idea this business even existed. And then in October, the great Heather Virgo from Atlas said, "Can I take you to lunch?" Because John Wasser, who owns Atlas, said, "You know what?" And Heather was kind of new at Atlas, and he had said, "We've never been able to break into the CW. It's all yours." She's like, "Great, I accept the challenge." No agent has ever, in all my 20 years in this business, no agent has ever offered to take me to lunch. Just never. And it's not that I'm a food whore or anything. It's just, just never bothered to call. What I'll do is get those group emails saying, "Hi, Harry Dunn. Our clients did this, this, and this week.
Right.
Please contact us if you want to use us. Thank you."
Yeah.
Harry Dunn. And
you're like, what about a burrito?
Yeah, there's no personal touch.
What's your favorite kind of food, just for everybody to know?
Yeah, so they can start getting the Groupon.
I have no particular preference.
Are you a vegetarian? Do you eat meat?
Oh, God, no, I'm from Michigan.
He
Of course
likes
I'm not a vegetarian.
His favorite is food that's bought for him. That's his criteria.
If it once walked and is now dead, I will eat it.
Have you ever done stand-up?
No. Yes.
Yes?
No.
Because you are funny.
I'm only
You're a funny
funny
guy.
on VO Buzz Week. Otherwise, I'm just dreadful.
No,
He's
that's
going
not
to do
true.
stand-up after he's done with coaching. Okay, so Heather took you to lunch.
So we went to lunch, and we started, and I had done these, the great Mary Lynn Wisner. There's a lot of great people, but Mary Lynn Wisner is in particular a lovely woman. She and I have known each other because our kids went through elementary school together, so I've known her a long time, and I did some of her workshops over at Voice Tracks. Look her up, Voices Voice Casting. She is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so Heather knew of me because a bunch of her Atlas clients had taken my seminar. So when we were talking at lunch, she goes, "Why don't you do this as a private lesson?" And I went, I don't know. Well, I don't know. So I just stopped and thought about it, and I figured out the curriculum. I knew what drives me insane. And so I called her back and said, "Listen, if I do this, this is my point of view. I want to do it from a promo producer and help people with their audition scripts because I know what fails."
Yeah.
So my lessons are exclusively from the point of view of the promo producer. I'm not going to teach you, how to do dialects. Okay?
Mic technique, and
You
you have to have a certain level of skill to come to you.
This is strictly about how to, like I said before, there's 55 people who do my reads. 50 of them fail because they don't know what they're doing. 5 know what they're doing. I will teach you how to become one of those 5. That is what I do.
That's fantastic. Sign me up, baby.
Right?
I'm there. Well, technically, this would be close part 1, take 1. That means that's the end of part 1. We'll be back next week with part 2.
You're weird. We will be back next week. In the meantime, keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, and you can also find us on YouTube. We love you guys. Thanks for watching, and just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.